Welcome to this latest edition of Doorway to the Paintings. And I've got another really good painting for you, one I really like. It's got a lot of interesting things in it, and a true story inspired something in this painting. And it's a fantastic story, and keep an open mind when I tell you, because it's a true story. And I'll share that with you in a little bit. But this is one of my favorite paintings. It's got my typical buildings in the background and mixed in with some ancient structures and some columns way back here. There's a lot of interesting stuff in it. It's got the old man. Sometimes I'll put old men in my paintings as kind of sometimes they're a symbol of wisdom and weariness sometimes, because we all get tired and we're looking for a place out of the norm that we can go to kind of escape, just to get some peace and quiet. But this is an interesting painting. I really like it. It's a painting that is similar to a lot of my other paintings. It's a painting that I not only like, but was inspired by a few things. Few things led me to paint it, but it's also a painting that I don't want to say I've done many times, but I've done other paintings like it many times, and you can see a lot of aspects in here that are similar to other paintings that I've painted over and over again, and that's because I like it so much. I like this type so much, with these buildings, and some of them are very tall. They look unsteady and kind of worn, but I think it adds to the painting. There's something about it that I like. So let's take a closer look at it, and look at it from a different point of view. Yeah, one of my favorites here. Tonight's the right time to show it, I think. Saw it in the box the other day, and I just thought I got to do a video on this one. As far as inspirations go, I'd have to say, in terms of a dark city, like a dark, I mean, some of the lights are working, and I love street lights next to trees, but one of the influences was Escape from New York, because of the city looking so dark, not having much power. Love that movie. Great movie by John Carpenter, and just what a great actor Kurt Russell is, and just they did a great job with that film. And just, yeah, all the people who worked on that film did a really great job. And the old buildings back here that I painted, they're exaggerated, but they kind of, to me, look like a little bit from Escape from New York. And then also that old Nostradamus, documentary. It was a movie, kind of documentary type movie, hosted by Orson Welles. I think it was called The Man Who Saw Tomorrow. There was a couple scenes in there, a few scenes where cities were being destroyed in the future. And that was another, the way the buildings looked in that show inspired me to make a lot of my buildings look like this in a lot of my paintings. That was another inspiration. Also, Terminator 1, which is absolutely one of my favorite movies. Terminator 1 is a movie that I really liked. I got a lot of nostalgia for it too. I saw it in the theater when I was about 7. It came out in 1984, and I was about 7 years old. And I remember the buildings falling apart in the background when it showed the futuristic scenes. That was also another inspiration behind this painting and others. Even though these buildings aren't exactly falling apart, they're unsteady, they're worn. And something about that makes it look, I love it. It adds more mystery to it, makes it look a little more scary and more fun. I think it makes a funner painting. Kind of an old Greek or Roman looking philosopher here. This guy here kind of like has an old, kind of ancient Roman or Greek look to them. You got this structure back here, which is kind of my own. It's kind of a mix between really tall columns and a freeway overpass that's just exaggerated. I did that. They're like giant pillars. Just love that. And of course, like I mentioned in my other videos, Halloween 3 was an influence, heavy influence on a lot of my art. At the beginning of that movie, there was a freeway overpass, and one of the characters was running with the Halloween mask, and he was being followed, but there was columns. There were columns and a freeway overpass that was being supported by these columns. And it stuck with me. I liked how that looked. So that was definitely an influence. And I'll tell you about this object in the sky later and my experience with the real thing. But I love street lights next to trees. The Halloween films and Escape from New York were influences on me, and that's one of the reasons I put this. Plus, I always liked it, even when I was a kid playing in the neighborhood, and it started to get dark, and the street lights would come on, and I always liked how they looked next to the trees. But I love the buildings and the dark windows. The buildings, I made them look old. The windows are not square. They're in all kinds of shapes, kind of square and round, and kind of look worn and almost like some of the cement has crumbled off. You have a big doorway into this building here. Then it would go up many floors, and sometimes I'll put characters with white robes in the windows in some of my paintings, and I'll have to do videos on those in the future. I think I already did, but yeah, a lot of my paintings are like this. I just love those old buildings in the background. Just it makes it look so interesting. There's is it Socrates or Plato? Aristotle? Probably the wrong century. There's street lights here, but I like mixing some ancient structures in with the modern ones and putting some street lights in for effect. Here's another street light. I just love how the street light hits the leaves, and the leaves are illuminated by these street lights. Let me just back out here and show it from a distance. I really like that. I've always liked that. And then you got these lights down here. Really like that in the background. Almost look like someone with a robe here, but I think it might be the shine of the paint. I think, because when I move it, the shine will show up a little brighter at times. But I do that in quite a few paintings, or at least some of my other paintings. Usually I have a lot of characters down here walking around at the bottom with white robes or wearing something from ancient, or what looks like ancient times. Anyway, about this object here, this triangle in the sky, it was 1997, I believe. I'm sure it was 97. And the comet Hale-Bopp, where I was living, the comet Hale-Bopp was visible in the northwest part of the sky. And I was watching it, but also that night there was a red moon, a blood moon. There was a lunar eclipse. The moon turned red, and that was in the east. So while I was watching the the eclipse. Let's pretend the moon was here, like in this area, probably around here. The moon would be here, and it was turning red, and I was watching it. And then to the left, there was like a small Cessna plane coming towards the moon. And I looked over to my right, and I saw this triangle just like this in the sky, not making a sound, not it was spinning. The triangle I saw was actually doing, it was turning like cartwheels. It was turning in the sky, and it was going in this direction. So I looked at it, and at first it didn't hit me right away, and then a few seconds later I thought, wow, just think about what I'm seeing. So you got the comet Hale-Bopp way off to the left, way over to the northwest. The east, you have this blood moon, and then you have this, it had a blue tint to it. It was very dark, but it had shine to it, and blue triangle coming from the right. It was coming from the south, and then here's east, and then the Cessna plane was over here. Anyway, this triangle, you know what it did? It cloaked itself. It turned invisible. But I knew it was still there because it blocked out some of the stars, and then the Cessna plane came towards it. The plane disappeared. You know why? Because this went in front of it. So the Cessna plane was silhouetted. It was blocked out by this. So that's how I knew it was still there, because I could see it block out the plane. And when the plane was over here, this thing kept going this way, this triangle, and I could still see it, even though it cloaked itself. It was almost like it uncloaked after the plane went by, almost like it was trying to hide from the plane. And so it kind of uncloaked itself, I think. Anyway, my eye stayed on it, and then eventually I couldn't see it anymore because it was too dark. But that was in '97, I believe. And I think, see, I heard later about the Phoenix Lights, and I thought, you know, that's what I saw, even though it was a different state. I was in a totally different state. But there's a lot of activity around that time. And there's more to the story than that. But this spacecraft, this object, whatever you want to call it, was on my right, and way over in the northwest was the comet Hale-Bopp. So just for a time reference, and I believe it was '97. So that's what inspired this blue triangle. And the rest, well, you know the story. The movies, a lot of inspiration. A lot of inspirations, plural, went into this painting. They're walking down the steps here. They're pointing. They probably should be pointing towards this thing, but they're pointing this direction. Another fascinating addition of doorway to the paintings. Probably a little more fascinating than normal. Threw in a true story about this. Whether you believe me or not, I know what I saw. It happened, and take it the way you want it, and I hope it inspires you to have interesting thoughts, deep thoughts and dreams, and perhaps open your mind to things that aren't normal to your everyday life. And I hope it does open a lot of people's minds. But the story I just told has been told, or similar stories have been told many, many, many times around the world. Maybe not with those three things at once, you know, or four things: the triangle, the blood moon, comet Hale-Bopp, and that Cessna plane that went right towards it. And not everyone had all four happen at the same time, but there's so many stories about objects in the sky, and such a big universe. There could be multiple dimensions, so I would just say we're very limited in our knowledge. We're here on this planet. The universe is so huge, and for us to think that we know that there's not anything out there, I think is just more hard to believe than actually just simply believing that there is more in existence than what we know. So it was very interesting, and I thought it was one of those things in my life that affected me. But I actually, before that though, I was always open-minded to spacecraft or creatures in the universe or other beings. I was always open-minded. So it didn't change me in a huge way, but it did change me from being open-minded to actually knowing that there are other objects that we can't just explain away. This could not be explained by normal means. What I saw that night couldn't be explained away to be something that we made. In fact, stories of triangles go way, way back, and stories of UFOs and unidentified flying craft go back thousands of years. So it predates anything that we could make in this country or any country. So anyway, that's a little extra on this edition of Doorway to the Paintings. I hope you enjoyed looking at this one with me tonight. I know I did, and enjoyed painting it. And I got other paintings with similar buildings, and those are really good too. I'll probably do videos of those in the future, perhaps. And the plan is to be back soon to do another video, back when it's another cool, crisp night. And if you like this video, consider subscribing and hitting the like button. And I'd like to be back with you soon with another video. Anyway, take care, everybody. Good night.